Okay.
Let's see if I can get some more information up on the screen.
Franklin Lewis is yelling at you.
Yeah, I saw that.
Let's see.
Yeah, Billy's already on the Greene County net anyway.
Yeah. That is the public page. That's the spotter page. Let me see here. Does the T-Storm or...
Oh, I like those face masks.
Oh, dang.
Oh, I heard that.
Wow.
Especially the radar face mask.
Surprised the feet didn't jump. Dang. Okay.
Hey, Steve, did you see that Helicity link with the face mask? Look at the radar face mask.
Okay. So I need to be...
That would be interesting to wear into a store.
Okay, I'm just going to go ahead and I think post both of them unless I see one here.
Alright. Let me get some radar in motion.
Yeah, I don't see either one of those there, so
Yeah.
I think I'm just going to go ahead and post both of them.
Man, that just got crazy.
I guess I need one for Greene County too, because that does cover Greene County. And we got a third one now.
Yeah, that radar one looks kind of weird. I mean, it looks cool, but at the same time, it looks kind of weird.
Yeah.
Alright. That's a little better.
This is N0SRO, Net Control.
Thunderstorm warning remains in effect until 8:45 for southwestern Smoke, northwestern Greene,
For southwestern
southeastern
Cove,
Dade.
northwestern Greene,
In 8:25,
southwestern Dade
severe
County
thunderstorm
until
reported
8:45.
located near
At
Ash Grove.
8:13, a severe thunderstorm was located near Everton or 10 miles east of Greenfield moving northeast at 20 miles per hour. There's no further new information. This is just an update that it is continuing to be
$10 size
This is N0SRO, Greene County Sky.
location. Walnut Grove, Everton, Cave Springs, Ash Grove, Morrisville, Sackville, and Eagle. For your protection, move to an
Come
interior ramp with the lowest
on.
floor of the building. Anybody out there getting any of that hail? We sure appreciate some reports. KD0KNL, Nick Control.
There we go. Let's see if I can get into the chat. I haven't been in a while. We haven't had any weather.
I know.
You may have to reset your password.
It's been recent that I did that.
Has it been within the last 120 days?
Oh yeah. Yep.
Facebook, why are you doing this to me? I don't know why, since they redid their new thing, now my all my stuff that I have on the side of my Finder windows is not showing up. That was the thunderstorm warning.
Oh. Yeah, this is gonna
So
be
I'm having-
for a bit.
So I'm having to dig way through my file system than what I used to get all my pictures and stuff for my posts. And for some reason my computer now is wanting to run way slow, which of course it wasn't doing until after the storm started.
Of course.
Yeah, of course.
Ooh.
So this is why I'm being slow getting posts going.
Wish I had an easier ability to copy and paste text, but if I do that, then I get all the carriage returns, and that is not good for a crawling text.
Yeah, and it may be easier for me this way. I just go in and I real quickly edit it, take that out. But like I said, it may be easier for me to do that here than it is for you. Okay.
Well, I want to get the crawl on. For Green County.
Come on.
Since they're letting this severe warning for Bourbon County expire, if it maintains its strength, another thunderstorm warning may be needed as it moves in from the northeast west. KD0 KNL net control.
This was a thunderstorm warning too.
That storm that was in Bourbon County looks like it's falling apart.
That's why he was just now talking about on the regional. They're going to let it expire, but it might potentially be able to build back up. Okay.
Stubborn.
I'm telling you, maybe I'm fooling myself. Maybe I don't think it will be much of a performance increase, but I cannot wait till I get that dual quad core Mac Pro going.
Did you ever get that computer operation from CRC?
No, not yet, because I don't have a hard drive to put an operating system in.
Really?
I mean, I could take the hard drive out of the G5 and
November 0,
format
Mike and the
it.
Oscar is listening.
So are you thinking about a solid state or a
Hold on.
3.5? What?
This is KD0RSJ. Go ahead.
Good afternoon or good evening, Franklin. No traffic. I was just signing on, listening here in case we get any kind of action.
Okay, no problem. We've got a line that's kind of moving into the northwest part of the county, and it looks like there may be a gust front kind of moving from north to southeast. And it looks like there may actually be a little cell right there, or, well, one over eastern Springfield and one just north of Stratford. So I would appreciate any thing that you might possibly see. I'm posting, and I'm kind of a little bit behind right now, so I will go ahead and let you go. But if you do see anything, give me a holler. KD0RSJ.
All right, so very good. Will do. And yeah, I'm kind of surprised it got this far south. They weren't thinking it was going to make it all the way down here, but I'm not complaining. We need the rain and wouldn't mind the cooler weather. And 0 hour mile clear, and listening in the background.
Okay, I'm back. I think I just saw lightning out the blinds. And then this was still yet again another thunderstorm warning. Did I copy that? I'm kind of ignoring, not NWS chat, but the other chat right now, so I can try to get caught up on these. If you guys see anything that's kind of directed towards me, would you just give me a heads up?
Or if a new warning comes up.
I think I'm up to everything except for this hazardous weather outlook. Let me go ahead and read this real quick.
Limited hail risk, limited thunderstorm wind damage risk, limited...
That's our HWO.
This is KD0RSJ with an updated hazardous weather outlook. This is for portions of the Missouri Ozarks and extreme southeast Kansas. Day 1 tonight, weather hazards expected include limited hail risk, limited thunderstorm wind damage risk, limited flooding risk, significant lightning risk, and limited excessive heat risk. Discussion. Heat indices are as high as 95 this evening, but will continue to drop into tonight. An area of thunderstorms over the area this evening may occasionally have some storms that strengthen and produce winds to 60 miles per hour and small hail. The storms will also produce locally heavy rain, resulting in a limited flood threat lasting into the night, primarily north of Highway 54. Days 2 through 7, Monday through Saturday. Overnight thunderstorms will likely continue into Sunday morning with better chances north of Highway 54. The greatest coverage from these storms will be for flash flooding over northern sections of the outlook area from west central to central Missouri. Another round of storms is expected late Monday into Tuesday with a marginally limited risk of severe storms along with pockets of heavy rain and flooding. Scattered, generally short-lived thunderstorms will be possible on a daily basis Wednesday and Thursday, primarily during the afternoon, early evening, and early morning hours. Afternoon heat index values in the upper 90s to around 105 degrees are expected on Wednesday through Saturday. Spotter information statement. Spotter activation will not be needed through tonight. This is KD0RSJ with Greene County Skywarn.
Sounds like somebody's getting message through the chat.
You got it read faster than I could edit it and put it up on the Chrome. That's a heck of a deal. Franklin, you're muted.
Hello, I'm back.
So, in the chat, I guess not anybody's particularly asking this, but that This is kind of defined in sort of the eastern or western half of the CWA, isn't it? Or is it going to be pretty much all of it?
Let me kind of zoom out here a little bit.
I mean, radar sort of
There's
looks like all, but
Yeah, there's a little tail that's probably going to go through like the western counties, but I think it looks like the bulk of it is probably going to go kind of down through the middle and our eastern counties.
is it? Okay.
That's my interpretation of it. I may be incorrect. If this doesn't drop down, then it may not. It may just be mostly the northern, and if this stuff around Greene County and Polk County can kind of hold up, it might go through kind of like the middle, upper middle part of the eastern central current watch area. Because I am actually seeing a lot of that stuff up towards like around Rolla and Lebanon and around there. It does actually kind of look like it's actually kind of maybe tracking more east, northeast. So it may not drop down.
You know, I'm going to take responsibility for this because Patty asked me to water this morning, which I did, the front.
Okay.
And so I watered plants, so certainly that means it's going to rain, right?
Probably. That, or if you wash your car.
Yeah, I didn't do that. Well, I did the other day, but it didn't rain on it.
It didn't rain.
So maybe I owe that one too, so.
Yeah. Maybe they're backlogging them for you.
Could be. I hope it doesn't build up like that. That might not be fun.
That might not. I need to copy that. Come on. And then see, I kind of have worked out a system. I've got all 3 pages on tabs right next to each other. So I can just copy and paste, go, put the picture, go on to the next one, and then I go back, and after everything's, the picture's all loaded and everything, I just can go ahead and post them in a row.
Right.
But that does require that everything works like it's supposed to. And then this is that severe thunderstorm warning remains in effect. This was at 8:36, so yeah, that's the same as that one. Okay, cool. So I got one more to post, and I'm caught up.
Yeah.
And that it does affect rain.
The one that's scrolling in white on our live stream is the current up to 8:45, which is just 4 minutes away. So they continued it, but I don't know if they're gonna
after that.
If it dropped out of the severe limits.
They may not, and then they might, if they think that it might potentially flare back up, they might issue a significant weather advisory after the fact, or maybe for downstream, not necessarily Greene County.
Right.
Because I've seen them do that. So yeah, I guess you could kind of call this my my I Love Lucy assembly line. Just I don't have any chocolates to stuff in my face as I go down the line. I doubt that people would like to see me stuff chocolates in my shirt.
So do you have the 6'4"?
I think she got by with that because she was Lucy. What were you gonna say, Steve?
You're taking the 6'4" then?
Yeah, I had. Billy had said that he had just, I guess, started eating, and I had told him that I didn't think it'd be an issue. I could probably keep up. I didn't expect them to like issue like 5 products in 2 minutes.
Yeah, exactly.
But I'm caught up now.
Okay.
So
All right. So I'm gonna go. I just pulled the warning crawl off. And I'll be back in about 5 with food, because that was where
no problem.
That's where I was headed, and it stopped raining, so I can make it to the house. All right, be back in a few minutes.
That's cool.
And I'm still on here. I'm just getting dishes done, so.
That's cool. I saw you were still on. I saw that you had your audio muted. So yeah, what Lewis had read just a little bit ago that he was talking about good news for Greene County. They had posted that the core with the cell near Ash Grove, which is in our northwestern corner of our county, is coming down. They therefore have dropped back the size of the hail to quarters, and wind gusts up to 60 miles per hour also remain likely. So that's still kind of, though, just right at or just right over that severe threshold, though. If I remember correctly, I believe for hail it is quarter size, and then for winds it's either 60 miles per hour, or I think it may actually be 55 miles per hour. So it may have weakened some, but it still meets that severe threshold criteria. So that does seem to be why it's showing, although just now, speaking of that, they just now expired it. So here, let me go ahead and get that out there as well. And I'll go ahead and mute my mic because I think he's got the radio feed going through the live stream.
This is KD0RSJ with Greene County Skywarn. The severe thunderstorm warning for southwestern Polk, northwestern Greene, and southeastern Dade counties will expire at 8:45 p.m. The storm which prompted the warning has weakened below severe limits and no longer poses an immediate threat to life or property. Therefore, the warning will be allowed to expire. However, gusty winds are still possible with this thunderstorm. This is KD0RSJ with Greene County Skywarn.
Okay.
The storm which prompted the warning has weakened below severe limits and no longer poses an immediate threat to life or property. Therefore, the warning will be allowed to
So
expire.
just as quickly as the warning came, it went. But that does not mean that we shouldn't still watch, because like I said, if they see signs of it cycling back, or they think it might strengthen, or if it might strengthen and not necessarily pose a threat for Greene County, but might pose a threat to the next county over where the storm is tracking, they may issue a significant weather advisory. Thought I had recopied that, but I guess I hadn't.
Yeah, we've got looks like the one for northern Greene County just kind of phased out, but they've got one that's developing here along towards Rogersville and Marshfield.
And we have that kind of that gust front that's kind of going through the county, and sometimes some cells or where there's instability along that, those gust fronts or outflow boundaries can flare those up and cause them to cycle up to a severe level. So that's another thing that we'll kind of watch out for. That's still trying to post. Okay. And I will get my radar up for everyone on the live stream here in just a second. Kind of show you all kind of what I'm talking about here. It does look like Steve does have.
Boy, I am getting pounded out here in Stratford all of a sudden. Pouring down gully washer rain and high wind.
Katie's here, RSA. Yes, there's currently a
group of
group of
cells
cells
that are
producing pretty heavy rain,
kind of north of
Stratford, not quite almost to Fairgrove, and then it kind of dips back a little bit more towards Marshfield and Niangua, and then comes down east of Springfield, and there's kind of another little cell that looks like it's almost trying to merge with it, kind of sitting over eastern Springfield there, Gene.
I've been watching it develop south of Stratford, and it's moved overhead, and it's coming down right now.
Yeah, and then there's another cell in northwestern Greene County, kind of near Walnut Grove and Ash Grove, that had a severe thunderstorm warning on it. They just dropped that, or just allowed it to expire. That may head over kind of towards that way as well, so you might have a round 2 of heavy rain here in just a bit.
Well, good deal. My yard can use it.
I'm sure several of our yards could use it. I'm going to go ahead and let you go for now. I'm kind of watching the radar and trying to keep up on posting, but if you do happen to see anything, let me know. KD0, RSJ, Greene County, Skywarn. Okay. Let me go ahead and let me pop up my radar here. There we go. I believe that was it. Oh, I gotta click start sharing. Gosh, I can't just select the window. I've got to click start sharing too. So pretty much right now, this here is that cell in the northwestern part of the county that just had the thunderstorm warning on it that just now expired. This here is what I was just now telling Gene about. This is Fairgrove, here's Stratford, here's Springfield and eastern Springfield. So there's this one cell that looks like it's merging with here, and this goes from East Springfield up through and north of Stratford. Kind of part way to Fairgrove, it kind of starts bending back towards Marshfield, and kind of over in here, you can't see it right now because I'm zoomed out, is Niangua. Let me clear this. And then kind of along through here, and probably maybe kind of extending over here. You can't see it very well because it's closer to the radar site. This is kind of where I suspected there was a gust front or an outflow boundary that was kind of moving down from up here, kind of along in front of this storm. So that's kind of along where, you know, you've got some little small cells, or you've got some instability that could come through and kind of fire these up a little bit to a severe level. Not always so, but it can happen. Along this leading edge, though, is where you're going to have some heavy wind gusts. And let me see if I switch this over to our velocity radar. And there's kind of a little bit, maybe not quite as much as I would have expected. But also, it's still kind of close to the radar, so it might not be picking it up 100%. And being said, let me go ahead and zoom in on that. Really, I see about 20 mile per hour winds. Now, this right here, right at Stratford, mid to upper 20s. There's a 26. There's a 28. Below severe level right now. So that might kind of be a weak outflow boundary, or it may be kind of collapsing. It may have had some heavier winds earlier, but right now it's just maybe falling apart. So I'll go ahead and stop my screen sharing, and I think that will go back to how Steve had it set up with me and then his radar in motion.
It did.
Oh, okay. I thought I heard you come back, but I wasn't
Yeah.
for sure. You hadn't chimed in. Let me see what we've got here in chat. They had some storm reports. Yeah, report of gusts of 48 miles per hour from a mesonet station at Stratford. Ooh, gusts of 53 miles per hour at a station in Vichy-Rala, which is where the airport is up there. That's getting closer to that severe threshold.
That's the Vichy-Rala International Airport.
Yeah, and I think they're talking about, I think maybe that storm that was in the north west corner. They're saying that it fired up right along the thunderstorm outflow boundary, which is what I was talking about earlier, that sometimes they can. Either that or that's the one that was over Stratford. Maybe possibly more than one over Stratford, because I think that outflow boundary was out in front of the one up by Ash Grove. And yeah, they're saying, oh no, not saying, they're asking from one of the emergency management offices if there will be a trend for these pop-ups throughout the evening. And I kind of think that was kind of what they were anticipating going into the weekend, that we would have a chance of, some not widespread, but some kind of scattered pop-up storms and stuff. That's kind of what we have this time of the year, unless we have a well-organized and defined system that comes through. We have these pop-up storms that sometimes might last 5-10 minutes, 30 minutes, 20 minutes, and then they're gone.
Oh, man.
I do definitely want to apologize to anyone that maybe posted something in the chat and didn't get a reply while Steve was gone. I'm not watching the YouTube live stream chat. I've got Skype going on. I've got radar. I've got National Weather Service chat. I'm actually running the Greene County Skywarn net on our local repeater. Plus, I have 4 different Facebook pages. One for our net control chat for Skywarn, and then I'm also posting to the Facebook pages. So I am posting to the Southwest Missouri Regional Public page. I'm posting to the Southwest Missouri Spotter page, and I'm posting to the Greene County Spotter page. And looks like, yes, they are issuing a new significant weather advisory for southwestern Greene County. So I will be back here in just one moment.
This is KD0RSJ with Southwest Missouri, with Greene County, Skywarn. A significant weather advisory for western Webster and southeastern Greene counties has been issued until 9:45 p.m. At 8:56 p.m., Doppler radar was tracking strong thunderstorms along a line extending from 6 miles north of Marshfield to near Stratford. Movement was east at 10 miles per hour. Penny-sized hail and wind gusts up to 50 miles per hour will be possible with these storms. Locations impacted include Marshfield, Stratford, Fordland, Niangua, Elkland, Turners, and Northview. This includes Interstate 44 between mile markers 86 and 106. This is KD0RSJ with Greene County Skywarn.
Okay, So yeah, that is not penny-sized hail and 50-mile-per-hour winds. Even though the wind gust is getting close to significant to severe threshold, it is not. So that's why they issued, instead of issuing another thunderstorm warning, they issued the significant weather advisory.
I got a news thing to read. Got this from Michael.
Mm-hmm.
This is from KMOV in St. Louis. Paramedics took 4 adults to the hospital in urgency after they were struck by lightning in South St. Louis City during Sunday's severe storms. As you can see on our radar, it goes clear up into that.
Yeah.
St. Louis. Officials with the St. Louis Fire Department said this happened near Louisiana and Montana in the Dutchtown neighborhood. The department said all 4 were taken to the hospital. One of them is in critical condition. So, man, be careful out there in that storms. You can get it.
Yeah, definitely. And, you know, some people, I think we mentioned this Thursday, you know, they may think, well, I can't see the lightning, so I can just hear the thunder, I'm all right. Or I'll do the old saying, you know, I'll see the flash of lightning, count the number of seconds till the thunderclap, and, you know, if I'm more than so many miles, I'm all right. No, that is not the case. Anytime you can hear thunder, you are close enough to be struck by lightning. I had mentioned I thought that I had read that a bolt of lightning can strike up to 10 miles from the parent cell that it came from. Patty corrected me. That is not true. It is 25 miles from the storm. So you're talking about a storm over Marshfield could produce a bolt of lightning that could hit in Springfield, because Marshfield's probably about around 25 miles from Springfield.
Well, we were watching that storm the other night down there in Neosho and Point South. We were getting lightning strikes clear up in Springfield from it.
Yeah. Yeah. So it's definitely nothing to play around with. If you have a thunderstorm in your area, go inside, seek shelter. Whatever it is that you're doing, it'll still be there after the storm goes by. And yeah, it looks like they were saying, Justin at the Weather Service, he was talking to the emergency management person that asked if this would be a trend of pop-ups throughout the evening. He said that there's a diminishing trend for severe weather, especially north of the outflow boundary that just moved through Springfield. And then Jason, who's kind of one of the radar guys, he was saying that the small line segment east of Springfield will likely produce 40 to 50 mile per hour wind gusts over the next 45 minutes. So that was kind of that gust that I showed you whenever I was sharing my my radar screen right before Steve came back. So kind of along that line, I'm kind of wondering, because it was so close to Springfield and maybe close to the radar site, it just was not showing all that wind, because I was only seeing like about 19, 20 miles per hour in 1 or 2 places. That was like 25 to almost 30. But it sounds like it still has quite a bit of wind along that leading edge. So they're expecting 40 to 50 mile per hour winds for not quite the next hour, about the next 45 minutes. So that would take us up to, this was right before 9 o'clock, 9:57. So probably about around, 8:57. So probably about around 9:40-ish.
Yeah. I tell you, that rain is falling in a good spot. It was a bit dry up towards Stockton Lake last night.
Mm-hmm. Wasn't.
Yeah. their lawns were looking kind of peaked.
That's up near Aldridge, isn't it?
Yeah, Aldridge and Stockton and Dade County.
Yeah, see, I just, on my radar, probably if I zoomed in, it would probably show Stockton, I think. Maybe not. Maybe one I have to add in, but I was thinking it was up near Aldridge. And I saw Aldridge on the map.
There's a couple of cells right now in Barton, and it looks like on the Jasper County line.
Yeah, I see that now that I kind of zoomed out a little bit. I may kind of redo this just a tad bit because I really don't need quite all this real estate necessarily, I think, for Facebook. So I think I'm going to move NWS chat over here so I can have this one whole screen for radar. See, that's another incentive behind me getting the Mac Pro going, is if I can get another graphics card for it, I can have at least 3 monitors, possibly 4, whereas right now I'm limited to 2 because the model of iMac I have is the mid-2007, and it was before they came along with Thunderbolt. So there is only a single mini EVI video output on the computer. So I have the built-in monitor, and then I have one extra monitor. Now, the later iMacs that had Thunderbolt on them, they actually had 2 Thunderbolt ports. So you can hook up each port. I'm not for sure if Thunderbolt 2 or 3, if you can hook up 2 monitors per port on some of the Macs. I know Thunderbolt 1 can support up to 8 devices plus 1 display. So you can actually hook up 2 monitors to the iMacs that have Thunderbolt on them. I wasn't fortunate enough to be able to purchase one to replace this one whenever that happened. But I've got the slots in the Mac Pro. The only PCI slots that are filled is the one for the default graphics card, and it's a double height, but it's a special slot just for it. It's the one that has the dual link DVI port and then a mini display port in it. Then there's another card. I can't remember if there's 3 or 4 other slots besides that. I think there's 4. And whoever had it before had a card in it that's got, I can't remember if it's 2 or 3 eSATA ports on the card. So like you can hook up external drives that run off of eSATA cables. And then I've got either 2 or 3 empty PCI slots left, and at least one of those is able to run another graphics card. So I'd like to find another graphics card that at least does 1, if not 2 more displays.
What type of hard drive are you looking for that computer, Frank? What size?
I'm looking for at least 1 terabyte, somewhere between 1 to 4 terabytes per drive, and I've got 4 bays.
Okay.
What I'm thinking about doing, and it just kind of depends.
Are you thinking about like a 3.5 or an SSD?
Well, they're sized for 3.5s. So if I got an SSD, I'd either have to try to track one down that was actually a 3.5 size, or one that went in like a carrier. But it would have to be one where it lines up, because basically each bay has a sled that you attach the hard drive to, and then you just slide the sled in. You don't have to hook up a power or a data cable. When you slide the sled in, at the other end of the bay is connectors for that they just slide right into.
So it sounds like more or less they're pretty much hot swappable then.
Oh, they probably are, I'd say. Because a lot of times, one of the things that people will use for these extra internal bays is like rig drives or backup drives. So if one fails, you just pull it out, unscrew the thumb screws, take it off, attach a new drive, slide it back in. I'm wanting to do it for having extra storage and maybe having 1 or 2 OSs on the computer. One of them will probably for certain be Mac. As it is configured, I could probably only put El Capitan on it. There is a possibility that I found a new thing that there's a new way that you can flash the firmware and I think get Mavericks on it. No, I'm sorry, Sierra, but not High Sierra. There is a way that you can flash the firmware to make it think it's a 2010 or later Mac.
Oh, really?
Mac Pro. Nice. And in that case, you can actually put newer graphics cards that meet the metal standard and put better CPUs in it so that it can actually run, I believe, through Mavericks or the next one after Mavericks. The last one and this new one that's coming out, they won't run it even with that. But I mean, that gets you pretty darn recent and probably gives a lot more longevity to the computer. I just don't know if I want to mess with replacing the CPUs. If it was just a simple fact of replacing the CPUs and swapping them out, I would probably be gung-ho to try it. But in some cases, depending on what CPU it is that you're putting in, because of the size restriction and because of the big, huge chunks of aluminum radiator cooling fins that sit on top of them, you have to delid the CPUs. And I have heard that can be a very touchy process.
Not this guy.
Now, did that computer have the guard inside it?
What's that?
Did that computer have the guard inside it over the graphics cards?
I think if you're thinking about what I think you're thinking about, I think you're talking about the G5s. The aluminum Intel Mac Pros had no kind of guard or anything that I'm aware of inside of them. Now the G5s that were in the same basic aluminum case, but the interior arrangement's different, they actually had a plastic guard, air guard, that actually went in right inside behind the aluminum panel. And basically what that was to channel the airflow from the different fans in a very precise pattern so that it properly cools everything, because those G5 PowerPC processors were known for generating a ton of heat. And
yeah,
they used
I remember those. I just didn't remember whether you got one of those or not.
Yeah, I actually got that before the Mac Pro. It works great. The only issue that I've ever had with it, and I think part of it was just because I didn't have an external antenna, and because it was so far to the modem at the house, a lot of times the internet would cut out or the internet would be very slow and spotty. But if I got an external antenna to hook on to the back of it, or if I just didn't have, like probably about 20 or 30 feet of space and cabinets and, a wall in between me and the router, I probably wouldn't have had that issue. But yeah, supposedly, if you don't have that air guard in on the G5 Power Max, and I've seen it on videos, like 5 seconds, every single fan ramps up as fast as it can go, and I mean, it literally almost sounds like a little jet engine trying to take off. And the CPU performance goes way down, and it just is like struggling until you put that back into place. I accidentally, once or twice, while mine was on, accidentally took that panel off, that air guard. I never saw anything like that happen with mine. So I don't know if it's just certain ones, or maybe I was just lucky enough I got it back on real quick so that it wasn't an issue. It doesn't necessarily hurt the computer, but the performance goes really, really down, or that is what I have heard, until you get that guard put back in place, because the proper airflow that it needs is just not maintained without that guard. And that was one thing, whenever I saw that and knew it was a G5, I wanted to get that panel open and make sure, is that plastic air guard in there? And it was.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
and
we had a lot of neat computers come through that place, didn't we?
Oh, yeah. And then see, another thing that I think will make a bit of a difference is I did pull the board out that's got the CPUs and got the RAM in it. It's 8 RAM slots. The single core, the single CPU Mac Pros were 4 slots, and the dual CPUs were 8 slots. I didn't know if they were all the same size or not. They all are, and they are all 4 gigabytes, so it's 16 gigabytes of, I'm wanting to think it's DDR2 RAM, so it's not like super fast, blazing, cutting edge, but it is ECC RAM, so it's error correcting. So it's, if I'm not mistaken, that is server grade RAM. So it still should be fairly decent. I mean, going from 4 in the iMac to 16, that should make a difference.
I don't know what to make of this weather, Franklin.
Yeah. No, neither. It's very broken up, and it looks like, except for that big old huge swath kind of from north of Camdenton up through Columbia, and then you've got, and it's broken up a little bit, that from just east of Stratford through to Marshfield and Niangua. Those are kind of the 2 big hot spots, and even that around Marshfield, it looks like it's heavy rain. This cell kind of between Everton and Ash Grove, it does, now that I zoom in, does look like it's got a little bit of a hail core in the middle of it, but otherwise it looks like it's mostly heavy rain. There's a little small cell west of that, kind of northeast of Miller, looks like moderate to heavy rain. Around Golden City, once again, there's a smaller cell, looks like moderate to heavy rain. Now, that one that Heather was talking about just a little bit ago, that was kind of the Barton-Jasper County line, it looks like it's gotten a little bigger, and it does have one slight little area that looks like a little small hail core, kind of in its northern part. But again, the rest of it looks to be moderate to heavy rain, and there's some lightning thrown in here and there and around there.
Well, it certainly went from a line. The line moved.
Yeah.
Big time,
and broke up quite a bit too.
It did.
Because those cells that were on the Barton-Jasper County line that were individual cells merged pretty good. It looks like they're getting pretty good rain shower down there.
Graphics. Oh no, oh no, wait, that wasn't what I was looking for. Oh no, I was wrong on that too. Yes, it is, of course, most of this, it might as well be Greek to me. Steve and Heather probably know what it means. The RAM on that early 2009, I think it's the early 2009. The next one is, mid 2010. It's 240 pin PC3-8500 1066 megahertz DDR3 ECC SD RAM. So it's not DDR2 like I thought, it's DDR3.
Well, the fact that you got 16 gig of it.
Yeah. And then see, it will take, according to Apple, the dual core, the dual CPU or 8-core units will support 32 gigabytes. However, if you talk to everyone else, that doesn't just test it to what Apple tested it to and certified it at, and tested it to what it will actually perform and hold and still be able to function. Everyone else says it can hold a maximum of 128 gigs.
How would it do that unless the board supports it, though?
Well, that's what they're saying. The board does support it, and I have heard this, that often Apple will not officially say that their boards will support as much as they actually can. They test it to a certain level, and that's what they certify it at. But oftentimes the boards will actually be able to handle more than what they say.
Wow, that's cool.
Yeah.
You see what Gene,
And it looks...
what Gene
What's that?
posted in there. He says your RAM is antique.
My RAM is antique. No, I'm not watching the chat, so I didn't know what he had posted. Well, yeah, I guess if you're comparing
considering
it to,
the
like
DDR4, yeah, I would say it's antique.
or DDR5 or I'm not even for sure what that stuff the new Mac Pro takes. I'll get that for you here in just a moment. It's some weird new stuff. Yeah, I'm getting ready to read that here. Or will not read it.
Bourbon,
Post
Kansas.
It. Yeah, that's bourbon.
So
it looks like they got some more stuff coming up. Come on, Facebook. And yeah, that's an aerial flood.
I'm sure we could use a little bit of that here, but
not necessarily the flooding, but maybe that spread over about a week.
No, it needs to be over with by Wednesday because that's supposed to be the most likely chance to see the comet is on Wednesday.
Ah.
Not that I haven't already taken a bunch of pictures of the comet. It's just that, it's like a moth to a flame, man. I can't handle it. I gotta go.
It's like Ron White said. You all can back me up on this. Once you've seen one comet, you want to see all of them.
Yeah, that's true. It certainly is not no Hale-Bopp, that's for sure. That one there was bright, brilliant. I sat out in the yard and talked to my kids about it. It was like, you didn't need a camera. I didn't even have a camera to shoot with.
Yeah, I remember seeing it. You could see it pretty clear with your naked eye. Now, it looks small in the sky, but even if you just had a small, cheapy pair of binoculars, that really brought it out.
Yeah, you could see it well. It was easy.
Yeah. Okay. Now let me pull Mac Tracker back up here. Okay. The new Mac Pro can take up to 1.5 terabytes of RAM. 12 288-pin PC4-19200 8-core PC4-23466 DDR4 for the 12 to 28 core processor. and or well, no wait, maybe this is for the 12 or 28 core processor, is ECC LR DIMM or RDIMM. Do not mix the RDIMMs and the LR DIMMs. Okay, so I take that back. This is what the deal was. Okay, so 12 288 pin PC for 19200 for the 8 core processors. Then for the 12 to 28 cores, it's 12 PC4 23466 DDR4, and I have no idea what the L4 or the RDIMMs are. And it looks like the minimum speed on those for the 8 cores is 2,666 megahertz, and for the 12 to 28 cores, it's 2,933 megahertz.
Usually when you're talking about that many cores, you're getting into servers.
Well, pretty much all the Mac Pros, going back to the original, let me see here. The original Mac Pro that was released in 2006 all use server grade parts. That's part of the reason. That's part of the reason they're so much higher. And from what I understand, I can't remember who it was that told me at the recycling center that if you have dual CPUs, you almost have to have a server grade board, which then requires a lot of or almost all the other parts to have to be server grade as well.
You know, the only person that I can think of that might have had that type of knowledge, Caleb might have, but I was thinking Rob would be more closer to it.
I don't think it was Rob that told me that. I think it was either, it may have possibly been Rob, but I don't know why I'm blanking on his name. The guy that worked over, going through the PCs, the one that wore the glasses. Younger guy was in college.
Now,
I can't remember his name.
you know, the only other person that I could have thought of, might have been Preston. Preston might have known. Preston wasn't there for very long.
Well, I know I had heard that part of the reason that the RAM was so much more expensive for them, not the other Macs in general, but just specifically the Mac Pros, was because they use server grade error correcting RAM, but I did not know that to have dual CPUs. I think they said you could get a non-server grade board, but it would be almost as expensive as a server grade board, so pretty much everyone that does dual CPUs, they just buy server grade boards. But yeah, it's just I'm so blown away on the specs for this new Mac Pro. I'm still not 100% happy with the case. I think the case design kind of sucks. I think they went with the cheese grater ideal way too far. And see, none of them are dual CPUs. They're all single CPUs. So if you get the 28 core one, you're buying a single CPU that has 28 cores on it. It's not like two 14 cores or something like that. Or I guess it would be like two 16 cores. No, they are all single CPUs. And then some...
the other guy that might have known would have been Carson.
Carson, that's who I was trying to think of. I think it was Carson that told me that. And then see some of these graphics cards that they have, 8 gigabytes of GDDR5, 16 gigabytes of GDDR6, 32 gigabytes of HBM2, and 64 gigabytes of it. I have no idea what HBM2 is. But some of these graphics cards upgrades, I have heard they're as expensive as the base model Mac Pro, which I guess is about $3,500 to $4,000.
Oh wow.
And I mean, they very much said this would not be a computer that most average people would be able to afford or really want to buy. This is for like the 1 or 2% of the people at the highest top that needs to have the absolute very best, the leading, bleeding, cutting edge that would want this and would be able to afford it.
I can think of a few.
Probably one of those.
Oh yeah, they were talking mainly like upper high end movie production, graphic art production,
Right.
stuff that you just need massive amounts of memory and stuff to compile and to render and so on and so forth.
So, good example of that is the stuff I was doing out there with the camera in the dark sky. There is an image stacking program that's written basically for Linux or Mac called Cyril.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And the common thing behind that is it takes your raw camera footage, your camera pictures. CR2 is my case because I shoot Canon, or RW, something for the Panasonic, and it will create TIFF files out of them, align them, and then compress them into one image. So,
okay.
So for an example, I'm out there and I can make my camera shoot star trails at about 20 seconds. And so, in other words, you start to see the stars move in the sky. Well, the stacking software will actually take that, enhance the amount of brightness, because if you got to shoot faster, you get less light, and then just add them all together. So you can imagine what kind of mathematics it takes to do that, and average and remove the noise.
Yeah, and see, that's what I was going to ask, what you were using the stacking for. The two things that I'm familiar with is either for doing like a high dynamic range or HDR photos, or something that I did not realize was a thing until recently is focus stacking.
Yep.
Have you heard of that?
Yep.
Yeah, that's where you take a series of images of the same setup, but you kind of vary the focus, and then you can go in editing program and put those all together, and it will add those all together, and you'll have that focus throughout that entire range. So it gives you the effect of having like a real high depth of field, but you don't necessarily have to shoot a single image at a really low aperture size or a high f-stop number, because it's kind of the reverse. The higher the number, the bigger your aperture is. So like a 1 f-stop would be like maybe like that, and then like a 32 would be like closed down almost to like a pinhole. So normally the bigger the aperture, the shallower your depth of field, but the smaller the aperture, the wider your depth of field, and sometimes that can be kind of a hassle. There's some other elements that it adds to your image or takes away depending on how you're doing and everything. And if you've got like a really low light setting, you can't take a really fast shutter speed. You have to have it probably cranked up quite a bit, and unless you're like on a tripod, and you probably are wanting to let as much light in as possible. So if you can't use that real low small aperture, you take several images focused at different points along your picture that you're trying to take, and then you add them together in that software, and it creates that large depth of field. Sometimes it can potentially even create more depth of field than what you could do in camera, depending on where your subject is and everything else.
in that regard, I took a picture of a bee on my back steps, back porch, and I've got a macro lens for my Panasonic. And this is not a very big bee. It's a little tiny bee, probably 3/8 of an inch front to back. And literally his butt was in focus and his head wasn't. That's how narrow a field of focus you have on macro. So that's a good one. But my thing I was seeing where they stack 5 to 20 images together to create images of the galaxy, the galaxy center, which you can see that very clearly. In about 2 hours, it'll be almost due south of us. So right here in the Ozarks. So it's pretty cool stuff. And there's not a lot written for Linux and Mac because largely that's Windows.
Yeah.
I know there's one you pay for in a Mac that's pretty good right now, and then there's a free version in Windows. But Cyril is something I have never heard of, and it's supposed to be for Linux, Mac.
Linux and Mac.
Windows 64, free BSD. Takes a lot of RAM to run it. And
yeah, I bet.
I want to try
and see another instance that I was thinking about, because another reason that you might want a real shallow depth of field and want that real large aperture is like in portraiture. And you know how a lot of times, this is what everyone loves, what they want to get, is the person's face is in focus, but the background is that real nice, blurry, smooth, creamy look. Or like if you've got lights behind you, you've got the perfect little round light circles. That's the bokeh, or bokeh, depending on how you pronounce it. Sometimes when you get into large apertures beyond like f1.8, f1.4, f1.2, there are a few f1s. Canon used to have one, and there's even a few very obscure that are like 0.9 or like a 0.95. I think I've seen one like that. When you get into those ultra wide apertures, you could potentially get where you focus on someone's face, and say your focus is a little bit more over towards this way. My eye and around my eye and maybe my nose will be in focus, but this eye and this side of my face will be barely out of focus, or might be quite a bit out of focus. Using a program like that, you could kind of maybe focus on this side, focus on this side, stack those together, and you might actually want to take like 2 or 3 of this side and 2 or 3 of this side, stack those all together, and you've got a perfectly in focus face with that incredible blurry background.
I've managed a few portraits like that, and it's pretty darn amazing. But I was shooting with a 1.8 Canon lens adapted to a Panasonic 4/3 mirrorless.
Nice.
And I gotta tell you, it's an old DMC G3. It's not very new, but it does.
Don't knock the old glass.
It does have a viewfinder, unlike the ones that are like the rangefinder viewfinders. Mine has an actual, you look through it and see an LCD. And I don't remember the model of Canon, but it's a nifty 50 from a film camera. And I was shooting on my Canon. Go ahead.
Well, I was going to say, if it is a 1.8, it's either the original 50 millimeter 1.8, f1.8. It might be the second version of that, which is the one that had the plastic mount. If it's the newest one, the one that I have that I bought used, it's the STM. It's got the stepper focusing motor in it,
Oh,
and they
no.
went back to a metal
The
lens mount.
the lens cap on it indicated the U.S. Olympic Games in 1976.
Oh, it's an FD mount lens then. It's not even EOS. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Okay.
I've got an adapter that fools EOS to think that it has a lens on it, and it's an old full-frame film camera lens. So, you know, it's good. It works pretty good. So, but that's not on the. I have to run. I've not got any lens for the Panasonic. That's original.
Mm-hmm.
So I've
Gotcha.
never run it autofocus or anything. It's always shooting in manual. And so that's why Patty has a hard time with it, because I'm so used to shooting in manual with a camera. Yeah.
Oh, where am I going?
The one I was using on my Canon is actually a Vivitar lens, and it has the threaded 43 millimeter.
Does it say what it is on here?
Hey, Franklin, didn't we get some camera lenses come through?
A few
CRC?
here and there. There was a few Canon and I think a few Nikon. The biggest ones that I know of, and they all came together in a kit, in a bag, was some Pentax lenses along with a K1000.
Did you get to claim any of those?
The whole camera or just the lens?
Nice.
No, the camera and the lenses.
Wow.
And I was surprised. I didn't think I would get them.
Yeah, well, see, right before I was released, I had a tablet on hold that was a Samsung Galaxy, and didn't get a chance to claim that. I wanted to claim that. That would have been nice to have.
I understand.
Franklin, we probably ought to make a decision here what they're gonna do.
Yeah.
I got a lot of people leaving the room here.
I gotcha. I mean, we are talking about photography. It's not like there's
there's
a whole awful lot.
There's nothing going on with the storms right now.
This stuff that's back around Jasper and into Kansas, it just looks like rain to me. The only thing that they've got warning-wise is a flash flood warning up north of Iola.
Right.
And then the other stuff that is more severe for us is, I think, out of our watch area. It's up the heavier stuff is between Columbia and Jefferson City, up around Cuba, Owensville, and Sullivan. There's a few little cells like around Salem and Houston, and kind of between Stratford and Grove Springs, but it's heavy rain, and there's a few things here and there between us and Kansas, but it looks like heavy rain.
I'm not seeing there being any kind of concern with the Weather Service people either. So.
No, they haven't really posted much since that area flood warning for Bourbon County. They did say feeder creeks in the headwater regions of the Marmaton and Little Osage River basins have taken some water. They're expecting minor flooding of those creeks. That's why they did the flood advisory for northwestern Bourbon County. But that's it. There's not been a post since then. And that was at 9:22.
Yeah, I think it's time to say the live feed has done its job.
Probably.
Doesn't mean we got to stop talking cameras, but
Oh, of course. Well, I've got an entire shelf of a bookcase, and that's not even all of it. So
Well,
I could definitely talk cameras.
let's give them our 73s, and we'll keep an eye on the weather. If it gets dicey,
Oh,
we'll
no problem.
reopen the live stream.
Of course, as always. If you want to go ahead, Heather.
Okay. Good evening, everybody. This is KE0NHL for Southwest Missouri Regional Skywarn, saying 73 and good night.
And this is Greene County Skywarn Coordinator, Franklin KD0RSJ. As always, whether it's our regular Thursday live stream or if it's one of these whenever we have severe weather that pops up in the Greene County and Southwest Missouri area, I hope you got some informative information about it. This was kind of a light one, so we kind of cut up a little bit more than normal, but hopefully you got some entertainment value out of that as well. And so I'll just say 73s are for everyone who's not in the amateur radio community. That's the best regards from KD0RSJ.
All right, thanks both of you guys for being in tonight. And as I said, I think if we got anything gets dicey later on, we may go live again. But I think we're closing it down for the night. Thanks for joining. Click like on the feed. We appreciate that. And have a great night. This is KA0 SPM 73.
Bye.